Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to my channel Bookables. Today I'm going to share with you all of the books I read in the month of September. So again, much like August, I read 10 books, which is really great. And this month has got to be one of the best reading months I've had as far as quality goes. I have a lot of books that I really love that I read this month and I'm very excited to talk about. Always with my wrap-ups, I start off with my least favorite book I read for the month, working up to my favorite. So coming in as my least favorite, actually these first three are tied, and coincidentally they were the three that I read for a reading vlog, a very seasonal reading vlog where I read three really fallish books. And the first one is The Simplicity of Cider by Amy Reichert. I'm not super surprised that I didn't love it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. That doesn't say like it's horrible at all. It was just kind of a middle of the road for me, as these next two books I'm talking about are. This book is about a character named Santa who lives at her family's apple orchard, and she really loves it. She loves taking care of the apple trees. She's really big into making ciders and grafting trees and, you know, things like that. And her dad is getting older, so he needs some help. So he hires this single dad named Isaac, and Isaac kind of moves in with his 10-year-old son named Sebastian, and they kind of help out on the apple orchard, and maybe him and Santa develop a relationship. And that's what the whole book is kind of about. And there's not much more to it. It is heartwarming. It is kind of fallish because it does follow an apple orchard. Overall, it just kind of fell flat for me. I didn't love it, nor did I hate it. It was just kind of a middle of the road for me. It wasn't overly fallish either. So a 3 out of 5. I don't know. I would say read it if you want to. And with all of these probably. We have The Cafe Between Pumpkin and Pie. This is 3 short stories. One's by Marina Andu, by Kate Angle and Stacey Finns. This one, again, a 3 out of 5. I read the earlier book in this series called The Bake Shop at Pumpkin and Spice. It's definitely very fallish. If you are a fan of overly fallish, like small town books, definitely read it, but you're not going to get much out of it. Like I said, each book has 3 short stories in it. They all take place in this small town called Moonbright, Maine, and it's very fallish. They have this bakery, they have this big Halloween parade, and each story follows a woman kind of falling in love. They're all insta-lovey pretty much, and they're just okay. I didn't have a particular favorite one in this book. I feel like I like this other one more. They're definitely cover buys because they scream fall, and it definitely caught my eye for sure. If you just really want something overly fallish that gets you in the fall spirit with really small towns, but you don't want a lot of depth to them, definitely pick it up. A 3 out of 5. It was okay. Definitely the fallish book I've read this month for sure. And the last book I read for that vlog is The Late Bloomers Club by Louise Miller. She also wrote The City Baker's Guide to Country Living. Again, a very small town book. This one's not overly fallish. I thought it was, but I was wrong. I think it takes place at the tail end of summer. It's not overly fallish, you know, but it was, again, if you want a very small town read, definitely check it out. This one follows a character named Nora who owns this diner. And basically in this book, she gets a house and some land she inherits from this woman she didn't really know. Fox Company wants to buy the house and land, and she's unsure whether to do that. Her sister wants her to. She doesn't know. So that's what kind of the whole gist is about. Again, a 3 out of 5, just kind of a middle of the road book. Much like my next one called Built to Last by Hahn. This was a total whim of a read, if you will. I have read one other book by Hahn. It was a young adult book. This is her first foray into adult romance, and again, it was okay, a 3 out of 5. Again, a small town read. I forgot the characters' names, so please forgive me. But basically in this book, we follow a child-like actor who is out of the spotlight. She got into some promiscuous things, and she's like, forget it. I don't want to be famous anymore. I'm done. She starts working with her dad, who is kind of a renovation guy. He flips houses, and she's really into the restoration of furniture, like bringing floors back to life, like bringing old furniture that maybe other people would tear down and get rid of, and she wants to restore them. And so she decides, you know, to help her dad with retiring and things like that, she will start like a home reno show on like HGTV, if you will. Only she needs a co-host. And who should that co-host be but actually her old co-star, who she kind of had a thing with back in the day, and they never really had the timing right. And so he comes in and they start like doing the show together, and obviously these feelings mixed up, and there you go. Again, a 3 out of 5. It was okay. Definitely wish the communication was a little bit more relevant in this book. I feel like when you get to be adult romances and the communication is just really non-existent, I'm like, why? Like, I get that in young adult books because they're young adults, but if we're adults, like, let's just say how we feel. But, you know, I get that makes it not an interesting plot if everyone just says what they feel all the time. But overall, 3 out of 5. I'd say if you really like renos, like renovations and like kind of HGTV shows, check it out, like Chip and Joanna Gaines. I'm not really that into that, but if you are, hey, go for it. Last set of books I'm going to talk about are books that I really enjoyed, honestly. All of them I either gave a 4 out of 5. First up being Such Sharp Teeth by, I forgot the author's name because I just finished it on ebook literally yesterday. But in this book, we follow a character named Rory, or Aurora, and she is like a big city girl. She loves working in Manhattan, and things are going great. And then she learns that her twin sister is pregnant, and her twin sister's like, hey, like, can you please just come home and like help me? I'm just dealing with a lot. And so she goes back home to her small town, and then the night that she's driving home, she hits like a deer, and she's like, oh crap. And so she gets out of her car, and she's expecting it, and like being like, oh my gosh, did I kill this deer? And all of a sudden, guess what's behind her? A werewolf. And she gets bit, and what do you know? She gets turned into a werewolf. And so the whole book is about her journey with discovering she's a werewolf, also while trying to be in a relationship with this guy that she was kind of into in high school, also while dealing with her twin sister and her pregnancy and just things like that. And I actually really enjoyed this book. It's classified as horror. I don't really see it as horror. It's nothing like insanely grotesque. I mean, the whole transformation becoming into a werewolf is quite daunting. You know, she really goes into detail about it, which is very harrowing, but it's not scary or anything like that. It's really about a girl becoming a werewolf, and she's like, what the hell? Because she's like, I don't know how this happens, and she has to deal with hunger all the time. Like, she learns that she does not want to eat anything but meat, you know, when she's not a werewolf, and she has a sense of smell that's amazing. She's starting to get really stronger, and she's like, what do I do? I really enjoyed it. It's a great book to read near Halloween. I would classify this more as like a paranormal romance, if you will, because it is really strong on the romance, and it does have really good sister vibes. I really enjoyed it for that matter. I liked it a lot. A 4 out of 5. I'd never read anything by this author before, I believe, but it was a good time, a good werewolf time. If you want one that doesn't take it too seriously, that is like romantic, but also like, you know, you're dealing with your life changing, literally, like your sister's about to have a baby, but you're about to be a werewolf. It's like, oh my gosh, but I really enjoyed it. Then also a 4 out of 5 is Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. No, if you don't know Sally Thorne, she's written a lot of romance books. A lot of people's favorite, and my favorite romantic book of all time is The Hating Game. This is her first foray into historical romance and a spin on a classic, as you can clearly tell, Frankenstein. So in this book we follow Angelica, who is Victor Frankenstein's sister, and she is like 24, and you know, it's Frankenstein takes place back in the day. In 24, you might as well be a spinster. Might as well be just in the grave already, because if you're not like married and stuff, people think if you're a spinster, you're never gonna get married, you're gonna be an old lady, you're gonna be an old cat lady, and she's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so she decides to literally make a husband for herself. So her and her brother go down to the board, you know, pick out some pieces of a guy, you know, do the thing, bring him back to life, boom. Here we meet Will, who wakes up and he's like, I have no clue who I am. Like me from the neck down, no clue. He has no clue about his past, and Angelica feels a lot of connection to him, but he's like, I don't know how to like do anything. Like, who am I? And so it's all about the relationship, and it was really cute. You know, don't take it too seriously. It's not a book where you like really have to dissect the whole connection to Frankenstein. I really enjoyed the relationship between Victor and his sister. He called her Jelly a lot, and how he was very much in love with his fiance. I like the different spin she took on Frankenstein. I thought it was fun. It was a different book for her, and I think it paid off really well. It's a great Halloween read that I could see myself recommending in the Halloween in the future a ton. These 4 books are all like 4.5 out of 5. I'm still struggling with rating them, but you know what? They are really my favorites of the month, honestly. The first one being Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I love this cover. Again, another book perfect to read in fall. Can you tell I'm a seasonal reader? I don't think so. This is her newest book. She's a mystery thriller writer, and this one's definitely very atmospheric, very kind of creepy-like. This one is a kind of spin on the classic by Agatha Christie called And There Were None, which I have read. I'll pat myself on the back for that because I don't read a lot of classics. But basically in this book we follow a character named Daisy Darker, who goes to her grandmother's house because it's her grandmother's birthday on the eve of Halloween, and her mom, her dad are there, and her 2 sisters. And basically at the strike of midnight, you guessed it, every hour on the hour somebody dies. You're trying to figure out who's doing it, what's going on, because they're all secluded, much like Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. This book takes place at a house, like you can see right there, like kind of on an island on a moor, where when the tide goes in or out, I don't know, you know, you're stuck. You are stuck there for the whole night. Nobody can come in, nobody can go out, so they know that something's going on. And it was definitely very eerie. I didn't give it, did I give it a full 5 out of 5? I don't know. I just love the whole writing style of it. I think if you've read the book Agatha Christie, you can clearly tell where it's going. There's not a lot of plot twists when it comes to that. There is one big plot twist in this book, which I saw coming, but I still enjoyed the writing of it. It was still mysterious. It was still atmospheric. I love kind of this kind of sea home that had like wave slosh upon it, and it was kind of damp inside, and it was dark and dreary, and I just really loved the atmospheric writing behind it. So I loved it. Definitely my favorite Alice Feeney book. If you want like a book to read on like a cold, dreary, wet night, this is the book for you. Next up, we have Spells for Forgetting by Adrian Young. Again, this is like a 4.5, teetering out of 5, because again, it's very atmospheric, very kind of creepy. This one takes place on an island called Shoreshot Island. It's off of Puget Sound, and this island is very small. Like, only tourists really come in. There's not a lot of townies, if you will. And in this book, we follow a character named August, and he was kind of banished from the town back when he was a teenager. Him and his mom left, and now it's like 12 years later, and he's back because his mom has passed away, and he wants to bury her on the island. And when he comes back, everyone's very upset because they think that he killed this girl, you know, 12, 15 years ago. And he knows he didn't do it, but everyone in the town thinks he did. And also back in the town, we have his love interest. I always do this. I mean to write stuff down when I do ebooks, but I don't. But either way, she has been on this town forever. Her and August were in love, and she's having mixed emotions of him being back, much like everyone. And there's also some kind of witchy vibes in this book because she is part of like this witch family that could do spells and things like that. That part of the book felt really, really flat for me, honestly. I wanted more kind of witchy vibes, like practical magic vibes. It just didn't deliver on that front, but the book was definitely moody. The book was definitely atmospheric. The island felt very kind of just chilly. It was on the cusp of winter and just kind of creepy. And also the people that lived in this island were just they were keeping a lot of secrets. And that this book is all about, really just secrets and what you will do to keep them and how you will push people away and things like that. Overall, again, a perfect book to read on a cold, dark, dreary, rainy night. It's definitely got the moody vibes for it. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm going to give it a full 5 out of 5 because I just wanted a little bit more witchiness from it. I mean, I just wanted a little bit more. Speaking of witches, my next book is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Madana. I love this book. I will always compare it to The House by the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. If you love that book, you will most assuredly love this one. In this book, we follow a character named Micah, who is a witch, and it's very secretive. You can't talk to other witches. You know, you can't really practice magic a ton. You have to be very hush-hush about it. But Micah gets a call from this guy that's like, please help these 3 young witches that live at this house, and they don't know how to control their powers. We need help. And so she knows she shouldn't do it because witches cannot, like, live together, but she does anyway, and she meets these 3 young girls, and she starts teaching them how to control their powers, how to do potions and things like that, and it's just so heartwarming. Gosh, a perfect book to read in the fall because, yes, it's about witches, but it's also about found family, and it's going to make you smile from start to finish, and you're going to fall in love with these young girls. You're going to fall in love with Michael. You're going to fall in love with Jamie, who's the librarian that Mike has feelings for, and it's just so friggin' heartwarming. I loved it a ton. The last book that was my favorite of the month that I wasn't expecting, but it was honestly my favorite of the month, and it was also the last book I read in September, and that is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I've been meaning to read this for years. I bought it because the cover, hello. I have read 2 other Grady Hendrix books before. I really, really liked one. The other one I was like, it was okay. But this one, I don't know. This one's probably my favorite by him. It was such a fun time. I went to read it specifically. I was going to wait till October to read it, but then the adaptation is coming out. It's probably already out by the time you're seeing this, and I really want to watch it because the adaptation looks really, really good. Like, after I finished this book, I rewatched the trailer and I was like, wow, it looks like it's going to be very faithful to the material, so I am so excited to watch it. So if you don't know My Best Friend's Exorcism about, if you can't tell, it's clearly an 80s book. The whole book is designed like a VHS tape, which I freaking love a good book packaging. This book follows a character named Abby, best friends with her friend Gretchen, and they're having a great, you know, time and things like that. They have two other friends named Margaret and Glee. And basically one night, Gretchen gets lost in the woods and Abby tries to find her, and she finds this really old dilapidated house, and there she sees Gretchen come out of it, and you know, things are not the same from there because what do you know, Gretchen is possessed by a demon. It takes some time. Gretchen starts like looking really haggard. She starts smelling weird. She starts not being herself, and then all of a sudden she's good again. And she's starting to really, Abby's starting to tell she's manipulating her friends and maybe trying to physically get them to do things. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's your like kind of fun take on demonic possession, which is a sentence I never thought I would say, but here we are. It was a fun time. I love that it was set in the 80s. They had so many songs they had so many references to songs like Tiffany to T to other amazing like just amazing 80s things. I was born in 1988, so I wasn't like a full 80s. I'm definitely a 90s child for sure, but I love the 80s, okay? I love the 80s and 90s. Like, those are amazing. So I love the fact that it was in the 80s, and it was just fun. Like, it was a fun time. Like, there is some gross junk in here, though, just so you know. Grady Hendrix is known for that. He does horror, but he does it horror with, you know, not too scary, but also very grotesque, if you will. Like, there's some scenes in here, particularly with Margaret, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, if you read it, you've read it. That's all I gotta say. You know, yes, it's fun. It's got that horror element. It's got the creepiness and grotesqueness of it. But at the heart of it, like I said, is a friendship. And I really, really loved it. So 5 out of 5. If you've been hesitating to read it, don't hesitate because the adaptation is coming out. And I highly recommend you read the book before you watch the movie. Is it gonna be a movie or show? I don't know, but either way, I'm very excited for it. So there you have all of the 10 books that I read in the month of September. Some really great ones. I'm very, very excited to see what October and November are gonna hold because I read spookier things, even more spooky than this, during those months. So I'm excited to see what I'm gonna read. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.